technology.
Yes,
I think
most
we're about ready now.
Okay.
Right?
This is timing it too.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Most people, when they first meet me, come away with the impression that I am a shy person. Upon actually getting to know me, you'll notice that I don't actually stop talking about certain subjects that I am passionate about. But when you first meet me, I am a very shy and reserved, I consider it, waiting. I'm usually waiting to see what level of me a person can actually take before I let it all out. I blame this on my upbringing. I was raised in a rather introverted way, a library book way. Because of my love of reading and my love of books, I tend to come off as rather introverted. A night out dancing, a night out drinking, partying like a rock star, I'd just rather be reading. It all started when I was 3 years old. My older brother was 5 and just learned how to read. And like any good older brother, he rubbed it in my face that he could do that and I could not. So like any good younger sister, I set out to correct this mistake. This continued for years, as my mother told me. But my mom got out the little yellow books that she'd used to just teach my brother and taught me how to read. And I don't remember when that magic moment happened when the scribbles became words, but I do remember sitting in the car with my mom. We were driving back from something or other. And I looked at a road sign and I realized I knew what it meant. And I realized I would never be able to unknow that. And I was only about 4 or 5 at the time, but it felt very overwhelming. With looking back on that now, I wonder if like a whole new world had opened up. My connector was getting bigger. Of course it was 4 or 5. Most things were overwhelming at that age, so I'm not quite sure if that's what was going on. After learning how to read, I didn't want to stop. And my mom encouraged this by reading to us every night from a stack of books that we would acquire every Saturday. Saturday was the best day of the week. It was library day. Every Saturday, my mom would pack us 3 kids into the car. My dad wasn't much of a reader. He usually had work weekends. And we would go to the library. The librarians knew us by name. In fact, they still know who I am. I ran into them not that long ago, and they still remembered me. They would know our taste in books. They would sometimes have a book behind the desk for us, and they could help us find a book we want to read. And we would spend a couple of hours, all 3 of us kids, going through the stacks of books, coming away with the max amount that we could, and going up to the desk and giving them their library card, which I remember when I first got it. It was a big moment for me. And then we would head out and go to 7-Eleven. At 7-Eleven, we would get a Slurpee and a pretzel rod. This was our tradition. And then we'd go home. And for about an hour or 2, we'd all be together, but we'd all be reading. My mom said it was absolute bliss to have quiet for 2 hours every Saturday. But it was what we did. And those books still made a lasting impression on me. In fact, I still have some. As you can tell, this one is very well read. And this is the one we read to my nephews whenever they come. And of course, written all over it, of course. But this is the one we read to my nephews when they stay the night at our house. Now, by late elementary and middle school, my taste in reading really became quite clear. I loved adventure, mystery, magic, anything with a twin sister, because I desperately wanted both of those things. And anything with a good imagination. Now, my 2 favorite books from that age would be these 2. This one's about a girl who can move things with her mind. I actually still read this one every so often. And this is about a girl who moves in with her family into a new house next to a graveyard. That's obviously haunted. And along with my mother's influence with science fiction, she loved anything science fiction, so my TV, movie, and reading tastes were also influenced by that. But this grew my imagination. My imagination became what I was reading. And I also think that's why my dreams are as, well, to me, amazing and fun. Ben thinks I'm crazy. But they're really fun. But I do believe that's why I have those dreams. And at the end of elementary and middle school, let's just be honest, that's an awkward age. I did not have fun. That's another speech for another day. And I would often use books as a way to hide. I would escape into my book and read under my desk. That's usually what I was doing. I was allowed to do this. I went to an inner city school, so it's very rowdy, lots of fighting, kinds of things happening. The fact that I was reading under my desk and I got straight A's in school, my teachers didn't care and let me do what I wanted to do. So I was allowed to just read. Now, books influenced more than just my imagination. When I was about end of middle school, early high school, I can't actually remember, I read a book called Salta's Diary. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's about a girl who grew up in Sarajevo in the 90s during the war. And she's compared to Anne Frank because of her writing during a wartime. And oddly, because I did not grow up, obviously, in a wartime, but this encouraged me to write journals of my own. So I did.
Lord.
I kept a journal from about 16 to 23. I wrote in them pretty religiously. Every single night, I would write a very detailed description of my day or my thoughts, just like in the diary I was reading. Now, I don't do these anymore, but at the time, I was so detailed. I had a lot of friends who would say one thing and then tell me they didn't do that the next day. Depending on the friend, I would pull out my journal and say, actually, you didn't. You said this, this, and this. They don't really like that, turns out. But they did stop doing that after a while, which I appreciated. Now, because of my journal writing, I started to actually write. I love to just sit down and write, not for anybody else to see but me, of course. But sometimes I still love to do this, I'll just put headphones on, listening to something inspiring, which could be Smashing Pumpkins one day, Celtic music the next, it depends on what I'm writing, and just drown out the sound of my fingers on the keyboard and disappear into my own thoughts. Now, my reading tastes have changed a bit, but I still love my science fiction, my fantasy, my sci-fi. But now I read a little bit more nonfiction, and it has still a science-y, historical kind of feel to it. So this one, Merlin, you can see my earlier influences in this one. This is about one historian's idea of who Merlin really was, and his actual argument is very different than what people really think. He has a very good argument. And then this one is my absolute favorite. The Science of Monsters, where myths and legends of things like vampires and werewolves come from. It's very good. I loved it. And I also give myself challenges for reading for the year. It's on a website called goodreads.com. And last year I challenged myself to 50 books, but I read a little over 60. So this year I'm reading, my goal is 60 books. I figured it won't be too bad. And a lot of people are surprised by that, but to me this is very easy. I can sit down and read for hours. It does not matter to me. I can disappear, I suppose, for the whole afternoon by reading. But I can't actually sit down and watch a movie for more than maybe half an hour, unless I'm in the theater and I pay for it and then I stay. But it takes me 2 to 3 sittings to actually make it through a movie. And I think it's because when I'm reading, even though it's somebody else's words, this is my scenery, my voices, my faces. It's my world that I've created, so I enjoy that a lot more. It's also another reason why I hate it when my favorite books are made into movies, because it feels like an invasion of privacy, and then they get it wrong, which is awful. So in the end, it's not that I am shy, just introverted. Feel free to come and talk to me. I will respond. I will talk to you. If we have something in common, I might respond with some frightening enthusiasm. Just a warning. It's not that I'm afraid of people or being out and about. It has nothing to do with being afraid to try new things. It's just that I'd really just rather be reading. Thank you.